Tasmat vayete deva atitaramivanyan devan yadagnir vayurindraste yenannedishtam parsparsha te henat prathamo vidan chakara brahmeti tasmat va indro atitaramivanyan devan sahenannedishtam parsparsha sahenat prathamo vidan chakara brahmeti. Tasmat, we use the word tasmat, tasmat twice in both the verses. Therefore, verily these gods, which is Agni, Vayu and Indra, excel other gods. Vayu, Indraste. For they indeed approach the spirit the nearest. They refers to Agni, Vayu and Indra are superior because they excel other, because they approach the apparition, the spirit. Thus, they were indeed the first to know Brahman. Therefore, verily Indra excels other gods, for he approached the spirit nearest. Thus, he indeed was the first to know Brahman. I don't want to get into the story again. So I hope you all know the story. Yeah? Don't forget the story. Now, Tasmat, therefore means the story is finishing now. Don't tell me to go back to the story again. Now, Tasmat, these gods, Agni, Vayu, and Indra. Just for those who have not got it, and just to understand the context, Agni symbolizes the organs of action. Vayu symbolizes the organs of perception. The organs of action symbolizes mechanical rituals. The organs of perception represent auditory worship. Lord Indra represents approaching God with your mind and intellect. So he says, first, the second mantra, he says, the three gods excel or are superior to other gods. Now, the other gods, why does he say the other gods, these three gods are superior to the other gods? The other gods represent mundane worldly activities. I'll explain myself. Now, don't jump to conclusion. Don't conclude. The other god symbolizes the mundane activities of the world. The three gods, which is Agni, Vayu, and Indra, are superior to these gods because these three gods symbolize spiritual pursuit. So those who are in the spiritual pursuit are obviously superior to those who are in the material pursuit. Understood? So the other gods, other than Agni, Indra, Vayu, and Indra, they are in order of superiority. So Indra is superior to Vayu and Agni. That's what in the third mantra is. They approached nearest. Now, just for information, Agni and Vayu symbolize Saguna Upasana. Saguna. Saguna means worshipping God with a form, which is objective worship. Saguna Upasana. Indra represents Nirguna Upasana, which is formless worship. How many of you have a puja room? Raise your hand. You all have a puja room, isn't it? What does this mean, Arpitji? You don't have, means you have constructed, but you don't put anything there in the idol there. What does it mean? I don't understand. This 50-50, I don't understand. When you're asked a question, you must say yes or no. What is this? You're like a third umpire in a game. Is it out or not out? You can't, third umpire can't say, I do not know.
Hari Om, Guruji. Long
Yes,
time.
Hari Om. Yes, long time, yes.
Well, it's there. It's not really my puja room.
Why are you personalizing that? Is there a puja room or not?
There's a puja space, yes.
What do you mean space? Then you're using it as a go down or a storeroom or for what?
We don't have a separate room per se, the way our house is built. But yeah, it's a corner or space dedicated.
Okay, that's all I want. There is a space which you call as a place for worship, isn't it? Whether it is exclusive, whether it is a grand, or it's just a small corner tucked away in a place where you think it's auspicious enough. I am not going into the detail. Now, the second question that matters. So you're coming and distracting me with your all these things. The class was going on very well till you rejoined this class, RPG. I tell you. So the question what I was wanting to ask was, you all of us have this place of worship, but how many of you have no idol in that puja space? No padam. Padam means no picture, no portrait, no photo, no idol, nothing there. Yes, it is a place for worship. It is a place which is sanctified, which is meant for my prayer, but I walk in, I don't see anything. Raise your hands. This is what means formless worship. Nirguna Upasana. Nirguna means no qualities or attributes which qualify or limit Brahman. Guna means a quality or an attribute. The moment you give a quality or an attribute, it is bringing down the status of Brahman, which is attributeless, which is beyond Nama Rupa, beyond name and form. The real Brahman, God, the reality, the consciousness, has no qualities, no attributes. So Indra only represents formless worship, Nirguna, which is subjective worship. I'm only trying to clarify, which perhaps we have mentioned it in the previous context, but it's worth knowing the context here, because that's what he says. Oh, is that true, sir? Raman Garu? That's interesting to note.
This Chidambaram temple, it's God is formless and it's empty space.
Amazing. So the entire temple is constructed.
No, there is a idol separately, but they show this empty space is shown only once a day for few minutes. Some timing is there, and he is called Nirguna.
Now, what do you mean empty space is shown?
Empty. There is a puja room, huge puja room, main deity place, where it is empty,
Then is it not permanently empty?
permanently empty.
Okay.
But in addition, there is another place for worship because people,
Perfect.
everyone. But
Correct.
this place is shown for that screen is open for early morning for few seconds, something like that. Some ritual is there. And
That's interesting. So, which is it's not common, I believe, isn't it? It's a rarity. So to have an Orthodox temple create a space of a worship, the sanctum sanctorum, and leave it empty has a very powerful message to those who go to seek God, to pray or worship. I'm glad you said that, which is a fact. So what this means, formless worship is superior to worshipping God with a form. That is what the third mantra says, that Indra is superior to Agni and Vayu. Indra excelled the other gods, refers to Agni and Vayu, because he approached this nearest, means he got to Brahman closest. Agni and Vayu couldn't get to Brahman, couldn't ascertain what that spirit was. The spirit challenged them, but they failed their inabilities. So Indra is superior to Agni and Vayu, which means formless worship is superior to worshipping God with a form. Hariji has something to say? Something to ask? What is this?
A similar temple is there in Srinarayana Guru, where he has installed only a mirror. So when you go and pray, you pray in front of the mirror where you see your own image.
Where is it?
In Varkala, that is in Kerala.
Oh.
Yeah. So when you pray, then you are seeing, you are praying within yourself.
Yeah.
It's
very interesting.
Yeah.
Very famous. Okay. I never heard of it. It's something, information. Maybe you should type the place which you just mentioned. Just type it for reference. Okay. Thank you, Ji. Now, what is important to note, that in the first mantra, or in the second mantra of the verses we are doing, he says that Agni, Vayu, and Indra excel other gods. And we said other gods are symbolized as, Amitama, what did we say other gods other than the three? Yeah?
Hari Om, Guruji.
Yes, ma'am. Hari Om.
Yeah, the other gods are supposed to mean the mundane worldly activities.
The other gods mean mundane worldly activities. Now, any idea why they are called or interpreted as the worldly activities?
I guess it is, we are trying to create a distinction, moving from Agni to Vayu and then to Indra. Anything lesser than Agni, Vayu is not even something we would talk about here in the Upanishad. So it is really based and maybe, you know, if you're in that realm, you probably will be furthest from Brahman.
Good try, Amitama. No, see, what we are trying to ask or understand here is why these other gods are called mundane, because they didn't even approach the apparition. So these three are separated from the rest. One is the taking it literally, and then the philosophical significance. We know. Now, what's the philosophical significance? Organs of perception and organs of action, and the mind and intellect. Now, this, which is, or what is organs of action and perception? It's the body, the mind, and the intellect. Now, you can engage, you are in fact engaging these equipments. How many times in a day are you engaging these equipments? UK. Your body, which is organs of perception and action, your mind and intellect.
Namaste. Can you hear me, Guruji?
Yes, now I can hear you, Ma.
Okay.
So the question is, from the time your day begins till the time you end your day, how many times are you engaging your body, mind, and intellect?
Literally every moment, Guruji.
Literally every moment, isn't it? Yeah. Now, when you're engaging your body, mind, intellect, for what are you engaging? What are the two possibilities you're engaging the body, mind, and intellect for? Two possibilities.
One is the worldly activities, Guruji, which may be mundane. No relevance at all. And the second is to realize Brahman.
So these equipments can be transacted only for the worldly mundane activities, or you could use the very same equipments to transact, to attain something which is beyond the mundane activities, isn't it?
Yes, Guruji.
So that is what this interpretation means, that these three are superior to other gods, which is Agni, Vayu, Indra are superior to other gods. Again, I'm saying just to make sure you don't misunderstand or you understand correctly. Agni and Vayu symbolizes organs of action and perception, which symbolizes the physical body. Indra represents the mind and intellect. So the mind and intellect and the body can be engaged only for the worldly pursuits and activities. You can either gratify your senses, you can either satisfy your emotions, or get tickled your curiosity or something worldly, knowledge. Or you can use your physical, mental, intellectual capabilities to explore that lies beyond the world. So that attempt to seek the higher puts you in a different category. And the different category is Agni, Vayu, Indra. This is superior to the other gods, which symbolizes when you engage in the worldly activities. So you have a list of all other gods, all that he calls them as worldly. Now, firstly, what we got to understand, the fundamental thing we got to understand is Hinduism is not polytheistic. Hinduism is not talking of the many gods, even though even right now we are talking of so many gods. Hinduism is not polytheistic. It's not that there are many gods. Hinduism, like every other religion, is saying that there's only one God. And one God is the formless reality, which is Brahman, which is the consciousness. So whenever they talk of the truth, the reality, it is in singular, please. It is singular God. Now, whenever they use the word plural gods, the plural gods only talks of the manifestation of that one Brahman. I repeat, when they use the word singular God, it is the Brahman, the consciousness, the reality. God is only one. But when they use the word gods in plural, the plural gods symbolize, Vasantama, the plural gods symbolize
the manifestation of the reality.
the manifestations of reality. Now, where is the reality manifesting? What do you understand by the word manifestations of reality?
Like we are able to comprehend and see unmanifested. Brahman is in the unmanifested form.
Perfect. So when you say manifestations of reality, what are the manifestations you see or perceive?
The form.
What is that? Manifest na perceive na ne? So manifest means perceive. Now the question is, what are you perceiving? What is the powers of that unmanifest Brahman which are being manifested?
The powers of Brahman we are able to see. How he
Question is-
enlivens everything. We are able to perceive it.
What is that? Can you give me a description of one or two?
Like Lingam, Ishvara.
Okay. What is that?
The upper portion where we perceive is the manifested form.
Now again, you're being symbolic. I'm asking, as you rightly said, the manifestation of the unmanifest. Give me descriptions of the manifestations of Brahman. You know it. It's just the language perhaps that makes you think, that's all. Okay, and I'm not going to ask Setuji. So please put your hand down, Setuji. So sweet, thank you, Ji. I'm very strict mode today. Okay, Vasantama, please think along. Yes, sir. Ramana Garu.
Pranam Guruji. After a long
Namaskaram.
time. Namaskaram.
Yes.
Manifestations of Brahman is in the form of Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, a creator, like
Knowledge.
sustainer, and the destroyer.
Correct. Correct. One of the perceived manifestations are the gods of Trinity. Isn't it, Vasantama? The gods of Trinity. What is the gods of Trinity? What have we done? What are these three gods, as Ramanaji rightly said? What are the three gods? Now you'll be able to explain, Vasantama.
They are the they symbolize creation, procreation, and
No, creation, destruction, and
destruction
maintenance.
and maintenance.
Now, what are these? These are the manifested powers we see around in the world, isn't it?
In the form of
Suddenly you go into your backyard and you see a papaya tree coming. It's a creation of life. Where does it come from? I have not put it. Some bird must have dropped a papaya seed, and that seed germinates. There's new life. And there is death constantly happening around you. And that maintains the progression of life, isn't it? So what have they done? Now, like this, there are many, many, many powers of the unmanifest, unseen God in the manifested world. So in fact, the world can be described as various powers, various, in fact, you can say the various laws that are functioning, isn't it? Isn't it?
Laws.
Now, what these great men, these great masters, which that's where perhaps Hinduism is so vast, is so grand, is so majestic, far richer than all religions put together, can be put in a small compartment, and Hinduism will, all other religions are dwarfed in the grand presence of Hinduism. All other religions are dwarfed. So what makes this religion so grand? What these masters have done. Now, what have these masters done? Now I'm only trying to examine and explain the origin of these gods. Now, these gods are symbolic representation of the manifestation of the powers of the unmanifest Brahman. Now, what they have done, they want, what is the fundamental purpose of spirituality? Fundamental purpose. Now, everything I'm saying is it trying to explain, so please don't lose your focus. What is the fundamental objective of spiritual practice? Harish?
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om. Did you write down the question, Harish?
Yes, what is the fundamental purpose of spirituality or spiritual practice?
Perfect. What do you think it is?
It is to constantly remind us to reach the end goal of self-realization by constantly remembering the higher consciousness.
The objective is rightly said, is to draw your mind from the mundane to the higher truths. Isn't it?
Yes.
And is it easy to pull the mind from the attractions to the lower?
No, it's not easy.
You all agree with me? It's not easy to draw the mind from its attractions and attachments to the lower. And this, the great masters who gave the highest truths which talk about the formless reality, they understood the challenge of drawing the human mind, which has developed a childish attachment to the world. They understood the challenge of drawing the mind out of that. So instead of pulling the mind out of its attachments to name or power or wealth, they found it very difficult because the mind is immature. You are still childish. Physically, you have grown. Spiritually, you are childish. And they found the difficulty to bring your mind out of your clamor for all these worldly powers. So what they did, instead of drawing your mind from where it is, they just planted a god or a goddess to wherever your mind went. It's something ingenious, something extraordinary what these great masters, the great Mahatmas of past have done. Instead of pulling the mind from where it is, they understood and studied the mind in detail, where all your mind goes, what all it seeks, where all it is getting attached to. So wherever it went, they planted a god or a goddess. So they injected the thought of the higher into your practice, into your mundane activities, so that you start divinizing your mundane activities. Just like you begin your activity or any day by worshipping Lord Ganesha. You say, Ganesha, if you worship Lord Ganesha, everything auspicious should happen. So it is only to symbolize that there has to be a higher purpose. You don't go on with a world, with a mere purposeless attachment to it. It's all towards the higher, towards the highest. So you are divinizing what you are mundanely, you would have attached to the world. You have planted a god or a goddess. Now, in our country, you find every street, every corner, every place you find a temple. And have you not seen so many people, office goers? They're busy rushing to the to the offices, hush bush. And suddenly they see a temple, they take off their slippers, and they at least they spare a few seconds, if not a minute or two, just to worship, just pray, and they quickly put on their footwear and go back into the mundane rush of getting to the office or getting to their chores. Even while you're driving, people, you see temple, you just do, just some kind of a symbolic gesture of offering your prayers. Throughout your activities, your engagements in the world, your life has been inserted, injected, intercepted with an opportunity to attune to the divinity. Every experience has been injected, intercepted. What's the other word, Rajima? Inserted. Where's your mind? Inserted, injected, intercepted. RPG, the three words, please, again. Some of them don't understand my accent, so your American accent will help them, perhaps.
Inserted, injected, and intercepted.
What does it mean?
So, I mean, what do the three words mean, or just what the culmination of all that means?
Culmination.
Yeah. So it just means that at every turn, whether it's you go down a road, you wake up in the morning and read the paper. I mean, everything is about these three things. That there's a moment to pause and think that, okay, this is not just making a living or eating this food, but there's something has been injected or inserted, or causes you to pause, to intercept you, to say, no, this is something else. This is greater than that physical manifestation that you have before you, or the knowledge that you're gaining, or whatever it might be.
Sir, I wish to intercept here.
Sure.
The purpose of these various punctuations of rituals or temples or idols or a mere chant or doing a Surya Namaskar or the Gayatri Mantra or just chanting the mantra Om, all this is only meant to give you a jerk to your continuous mundane association, just to give you a jolt and wake you up. Don't get lost. Don't lose your focus. Am I right, sir? Just to give, if this is not there, what would happen? Remove these gods and goddesses, remove these places of worship, remove all these symbolic offerings, whether it be lighting a camphor or ringing the bell or lighting an incense stick, any of that rituals, all of this, or offering a flower or chanting a prayer. Imagine all of this just for a moment, just pack it up, bundle it up, put it in a loft. It doesn't exist in a life. In whose life it doesn't exist, sir? It doesn't exist in the life of a materialistic, sensual person. All his purposes are to run behind the world, acquire the world. In whatever way I want to acquire the world. And having acquired, I want to enjoy it. I want to boast to the world that I've acquired. in a life of a materialistic person, all these elements of spirituality are missing. There is no element. All the festivities. Today is Onam. People celebrate. Again, it has a symbolic representation. Everything, our culture, our religion is so rich. It's only meant to punctuate your continuous mundane mechanical activities, to give you a jerk so that, remember, there is a purpose in life. You're doing it. Don't get carried away as Ushama said, that from the moment you begin, every moment you're engaging your body, mind, and intellect. For what are you engaging? RPG, didn't we say this? You can be engaging it for either. What are the two things, sir?
Oh, the mundane activities, the worldly activities,
yes,
or to reach that higher state.
Yeah. Reach that higher state. Perfect. Thank you, sir. This is the objective. Now, all of us are somewhere in the spiritual ladder where we need these reminders, where we need these interceptions, where we need these jerks so that you will remember the purpose of life. None of us are there in that state where, Rajima, none of us are there at a state where
we have reached the Brahman.
We're not talking of having reached the Brahman. We are talking of none of us. So what did I say? The statement before this question. You didn't write any notes. Don't look at your notes.
Guruji, if you could repeat, please.
No, fail. Very strict. No second chance. Lakshmi Ma. All what I do in the class, these people come and take revenge at me after the class. So I have to be very careful with these people.
None of us are in the state ready for Nirguna worship.
Perfect. None of us are ready to worship attuned to the formless reality, which is symbolized by, Lakshmi Ma, that formless worship is symbolized by, in the words, in the mantras?
Indra, is it? No.
Indra, correct.
Yeah.
Indra, which is approaching
God,
with your
Lord.
mind and intellect. When you approach God with the mind and intellect, you don't need a form. You need a formless, that's formless worship. It is still an idol, but idol can be gross or subtle. It's a subtle idol, it's a subtle tool. It's just so beautiful. I don't know whether you are able to get the intricacies of it, how it all falls in its place. So the mind is drawn away by the external temptations. Is too tantalizing, it's too tempting. So you're drawn away. So draw the mind spiritual. It's difficult to draw the mind out. It's like, isn't it difficult to draw the mind of a child out of the toy world? A youth is lost in passion, running behind women, running behind money, running behind power. You call your child and say, hey, why are you wasting your time running behind all these temptations, man? What is there in it? Have you not got enough? Be content with that. Dad, you have run all your life. Now you have nothing to do. You are sitting and listening to this lecture. You lecture to yourself and to your peers. Leave me alone. I want to run behind the world. I want to experience this. I want to acquire that. I want to do this and that. You can't put sense into them and say, why don't you realize, man, you've got enough, man. You will get enough, but don't be a slave to that. You have little wisdom. Now you want to pass it to them. They say, thank you very much, Dad. You say a little step further, they'll say, mind, MYOB, they say. Politely, they say. You can't draw them out of their own passions, they also realize our childishness, and they just injected these gods and goddesses just to attempt to pull you out of your mundane pursuit. So these interceptions, these injections is just to give you a jolt to a jerk to your mundane activities. So there's a chance that you will not get lost in the quagmire of your perceptions, emotions, and thoughts. Just get lost in the flood of the worldly transactions, isn't it? Isn't there a flood? It's like an avalanche. The world, the moment you get up, what happens? The world hits you. The world sucks you. The world draws you away. That is what these gods mean. Appa, all this explanation is for this one word, gods. How many times you do mention or talk of it, it is very, very beautiful. Okay, Lakshmi Ma.
I just want to add something, Guru, just my
Please.
personal experience. You know, though we understand this concept, we understand that we have to move towards formless worship eventually. I mean, that's what it's all about. But when you're thrown a challenge, when you come to us, there's something in your life that when you need solace, you still have that affinity to your personal God. You know, it comes back. You understand this concept, but you go back and you go back to that, to your personal God that you worship for your solace. That does not mean you don't understand the concept, but I guess it's so hard to attune to the formless and believe that God and you are one and all that in that state when you need solace. I find that.
No, you see, it is certainly a journey. And once you have progressed in the journey, all it means is the prop or the need becomes far lesser. That's about all. Now, if you look back 5-10 years ago, what you were, and I've known you all that while, that's what I'm saying. What you were 5, 10, 15 years ago and what you are now, are you the same? I would say no. Haven't you evolved? I would say certainly you have evolved. So how does this evolution reflect in with reference to these rituals and gods and deities and various practices, which is integral part of our journey? Please don't mistake it. It's an integral part. But the necessity, the utility, your association becomes from gross to subtle. It's like even the nature of thoughts, you know, even the language, a person who is mature doesn't speak certain language of grossness, isn't it? You can't speak vulgar words. A man of maturity doesn't speak vulgar words, isn't it? A man of maturity has a certain language, a certain refinement, a certain finesse. You can't stoop to a certain level. Like yesterday, me and Appa were actually driving back from, we were driving back, and there was a two-wheeler. And as he was driving at a good pace, you know, with 40-50 kilometers at speed he's driving, and he's actually seeing his phone, an empty stretch of road, but he's seeing his phone. And he was right ahead of us. So we pulled down the window, and at that speed, we just trying to draw his attention. Please, I think you can afford to not watch your phone, because if that guy falls, he is going to seriously injure himself, and much so, if he falls under your vehicle, you are into serious trouble. Not that you want to get into trouble. no one would want to get in trouble, and no, he should get in trouble. So we tried to alert him, and we were traveling, you see. So we just had to raise our voice so that he gets to know, please put your phone aside, my dear. And as like we told him, not believe, he came and blocked our way, causing a huge traffic jam behind us, and got into a defensive mode and an argumentative mode, and tried to say, why don't you pull up to the corner, we'll discuss about it. I said, there's nothing to pull up and discuss. We're just trying to tell you, I think, don't get in trouble. When you're trying to be of help to someone or alert someone, and that guy, that kind of language you could easily step into, it could have easily got into a street brawl. If only we pulled up. And it's so easy to drawn and get into that kind of a disputatious mode. Man, come on, said Ariyar. We had to fold our arms and say, please, we just want to tell you, you want to be like that, that's your choice. So a man of maturity, how does a man of maturity behave? A man of immaturity. So what I'm trying to draw a parallel, Lakshmima, is a spiritual person who is a spiritual beginner, these forms overwhelm the spiritual journey. But as you progress, the forms get replaced with subtler idols. Subtler. What becomes gross, what becomes loud becomes softer. I had this experience many years ago here in Hyderabad. A lady wanted me to visit her home. In fact, she lives not far away here. She started my class and she said, Guruji, I would like you to visit home. I said, yes, love to. And I entered. It's a small, what do you say, the entrance, the sitting room, the lounge she had. So the moment the main door opened up, you enter. And the moment the door opened, something hit me so hard. What it was a 10 to 12 feet idol of goddess Kali, Mother Kali. And can you imagine, it's a small room, entrance sitting room, and the furniture, the space created, and 10, 12 feet idol of Mother Kali with all that, how we usually worship in a temple or in a public square, you put this idol. And literally she had that idol there, and it almost hit me so hard. I couldn't digest it. In fact, I'm still not able to digest it. That's why I'm vomiting it out even now to you, more than 20 years later. Why should something be so loud? I'm not saying it is wrong, but I'm saying something can be. Are you getting what I'm saying? I'm lost for words. Harishji, he's very poetic and pedantic. Harishji, can you please? Mr. Harish Kumar. Now I need to address him as Harish Kumar, Mr. That is when he'll respond. So are you, can you please qualify what I'm saying, Ji?
Oh, Hariam Guruji, I think you said it perfectly. But just
but that always that but comes in. That's the reason I asked you.
No, I won't say anything. But you always look for something gross to capture the subtle because you're unable to capture it otherwise.
Correct.
But it's very strange that the reverse is also true. I understand that there is a temple in Kerala which is dedicated to Duryodhana. And that is another one of the formless temples, because there is no idol. There is only a raised plank platform. They call it a mandapam. Right?
Meanwhile, he has done all this Google research.
Yes,
We know.
But it's the reverse. That something which is very
Google
gross,
Mata has given wisdom.
No, what I'm trying to say is, just as you said that what is subtle requires a gross expression, what is gross may also require a subtle expression.
I am not ready for that comment. It's too high for me. I don't know about rest, whether they follow what you said. Too high for me, Harichi. No, agree. What you're saying is right. In fact, just perhaps if I could just sum up that point. See, you may listen to music. I'm not talking of worldly music. You can listen to a bhajan or a kirtan. It can be sometimes too loud. Or you can attune the same divinity through Carnatic music, through classical music. So there is a difference in pitch, whether you need a gross, I'm sorry to use the word gross, but something which is so loud, or something which is very fine and very refined and very finesse. That's what happens, Lakshmi Ma. So the necessity of idols and this worship, all these tools, is integral, but it's just that it slowly starts getting refined. That's about all. The elaborateness of a ritual is not required. A small reminder, a little ritual also is enough. It's good enough, I hope you get what I'm saying. I know you understand. All right, Ma. Okay. Yes. Hadiji, something? Sir, we can't hear you. Yeah, please try now, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, when we talk about grossness, sometimes we even want the Guru to show some miracle. It is not enough that we see the Pratima. We want physically to show some vibhuti and I don't know what all. No, they want a miracle to be seen. Only then they believe, because they want highly grossified proof. Show me miracle.
Correct. Now, what it only substantiate is the principle. The principle is your spiritual development. Harishi, could you capture this in caps for everybody, please? Spiritual development vis-a-vis the manifestation to attune to Brahman. Okay, manifestations of God to attune to Brahman. I repeat, spiritual development vis-a-vis the manifestations of God to attune to Brahman are inversely proportional. I repeat, the spiritual development vis-a-vis the manifestations of Brahman, of God, manifestation as gods, not of gods, manifestation as gods to recognize the Brahman is inversely proportional. To put it in short, spiritual development vis-a-vis manifestations are inversely proportional. To make it easy to understand the concept. What it means, if you are, let's say, 5% spiritually developed, you will need 95% of these rituals, of these various traditions. You have to go through the elaborate practices. I know people who spend 3-4 hours of the day. The day begins with elaborate pujas and rituals and chants and going to this place of worship. It's a daily program. And they literally spend that time performing these rituals or yajnas or chants or, or you can just sit quietly in a corner and contemplate on the truth. You don't have to go through every temple, break every coconut, go through the process of offering the flowers and chants. This, I'm not ridiculing, please. I'm not saying anything wrong with it. But the necessity is because you're just 5% and you need to do all that to invoke the divine feeling in you. That's all I'm saying. But as you spiritually progress, a person who is 70, 80% developed, he may not need to go through all that. He may just light a camphor or an incense stick or just do a silent prayer within himself and attune to the, get the same, invoke the same feeling within, which a person has to go through an elaborate process to invoke that. This is what I'm saying. So the need for that elaborate practice becomes less necessity because you're always attuned to it. Because of your development, because of your maturity, you're always attuned. The need for that reduces. I hope you are able to get the message, the need for it. But there is no harm if somebody wants you to do it or participate. And you have no qualms. You don't look down on that, those who are practicing it. You understand that they are different levels. That's about all. So you get closer from saguna, which is a form, to nirguna. So slowly the necessity of the elaborateness of the form and worship becomes lesser and lesser. You start to become more philosophical. Your sadhana is more at the emotional, intellectual. It is not at the organs of perception, organs of action. I don't have to go from here, take a 10-hour drive to go to a specific temple somewhere just to invoke that spiritual feeling. What is the necessity? If I can have that same feeling here, don't misunderstand. Huh? I don't have to go through the organs of action. I've been to Balaji many times. So if I can invoke that very same thought of what it is to see the Lord Balaji in my thought, is it any harm, any less? Reddy Garu? You want to ask something, but before you get to ask what you want, please clarify this. I have many fond memories and experiences of having gone to visit Lord Balaji in Tirupati. If I can invoke that very same thoughts in me and have that feeling, any harm, anything wrong?
Perfectly, Guruji. In fact, the moment in that particular transaction of seeing the God, the amount of jolting, the amount of push and pull is happening is definitely really taking away your total conscious concentration on the God. In fact, I think we can sit in the corner and able to we may get the same result out of it. In fact, you rightly pointed out, rightly in the sense of the great revelation for me, saying that Hinduism says only one God, and which is a formless. But what we are really seeing is totally in the opposite in what's been happening. And to my, in fact, I always get confused and feel creates some sort of a conflict in the mind whenever we go to the temple. Like the moment you break the coconut, this is my experience in the latest incident. And incidentally, the coconut has not broken into perfect orbs. It was in zigzag. That immediately that pujari looked at me and said that you have a lot of challenges. I said, what do you mean by a lot of challenges to do with the coconut breaking zigzag? that shows in your action. I said, somehow I could not comprehend what he's talking about. Definitely they will start getting into a ritual of you get into home, get into this puja, trying to go to this temple. I said, you're really gone there to pray the God, to bring some solace, as Lakshmi must say that. But in the process, you are ending in some other directions. I think it is triggering much more challenges than what we are supposed to get a peace of mind. That's my real conventional experience whenever I go to the God. But always there is a challenge because I'm a bodyguard to my wife, so I have to take her to the temple. But definitely, I find a difference of opinion between both of us.
No, I will agree with Sumanama than you. So don't worry. Now I know her, so
Yes.
I will agree with her. So if you say that she's wrong, please remember you have to deal with two people. Please remember you have to deal with me and Sumanama also. Okay? Isn't it, Rajima? Correct, isn't it? See, even Rajima agrees to it.
The only thing I practice after learning Vedanta, there is a Nirguna and Sarguna. So somebody can have a Nirguna, somebody can. So both of us have a place in this world.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just being lighthearted. Yes, so you had something to clarify?
I think this is one, Guruji, when we're talking about even the rituals, we say the formless gods, but we have a so clearly written Shastras, rituals, when to perform, how to perform, which material to be used in that. So are we not looking at that? The two are totally contradictory. One is a formless to a form, and in the form we are talking about defining the rituals to how to pray God, form God.
No, there is no contradiction, because when you, sir, it's like you hoist the national flag, you chant the national anthem, you invoke the national, everything is done to invoke the national consciousness. But you would not do anything derogatory, anything which doesn't invoke that national spirit in you. It happened at some point, I know, in a life of one of the Indian sportswomen. I think it was Sania Mirza, the tennis champion who represents our country. In some event where she actually had won the championship of a Grand Slam, if I'm not wrong, she had that national flag draped over her just to celebrate that occasion. And after that, I think the flag slipped and fell, and her feet for a moment or two was actually on that flag. That was captured by the cameras, and there was a furore in the entire media. How can she stamp the national flag? She has no national spirit, and that, and then religion comes in and gone out of proportion. And she only came and said, "I'm very sorry, it was unintended thing. It's not that I have disrespect to my country." Now it's only symbolic. So when you perform these rituals, like even we were being educated, like when you perform this yaga or yajna, the kind of herbal plants and the medicinal plants and the kind of the material that is used as an offering to invoke that fire and to sustain that flame during the practice of that yajna, it's not any wood. Now today people would use plywood. When you do carpentry work in the house, there's all the cuts and corners and the pieces of plywood is used to do yajna. It is not meant that way. You can't do anything. It's very auspicious. So everything, so even you wouldn't offer anything. Would you offer a rotten banana to the god?
No.
Why do you choose the best to offer? So that you're able to identify with divinity easy. So it is easier to identify divinity with the best than the worst. I repeat, it's easier to identify with divinity in the best. In sattvic aspects, divinity is more glorious manifesting than in tamasic. Don't we not say the Brahman is same in a sinner and a saint?
Yes.
But you can see God in a saint than a sinner. Why? I help you answer the question. The question is, why can't you see the same God which is there in a sinner and a saint? It's because you are not spiritual enough to see the God in a sinner. The God is the same in a sinner and a saint, but you can see the God in a saint more pronounced than a sinner. It is not that the God is more in a saint and less in a sinner. It's because I lack the capacity to see the God in a sinner. Therefore, I try to see it in a saint. Convenient. Therefore, you choose the best to offer to God, because I am not at that level where even if I don't offer, I can see Brahman. Therefore, when I perform, let me perform it with care, with great care. That's what Adi Shankaracharya says. I think in Bhajagovindam he says, Kuruvavadhanam Mahadhavadhanam. Take it, do it with great care. Whatever you do, even if you're offering a flower, you don't offer a flower like you're checking cards and rummy. What talent people have got is a large table and you've got a pack of cards and the 10 people sitting there, tuck, 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 tuck. They keep, I have seen people doing, I don't know that. But when you throw a card, exactly it goes to that person. If I have to offer flowers to Lord Ganesha, I'll sit here and say, start checking flowers. Is that how you offer a flower? The way you pick up a flower, the way you offer a flower, the way it is performed. Even you, in fact, you see, go to temples, they're just checking as if they're rummy, they're playing, Yeah, they're simply throwing flower, what is going on? Everything is very auspicious. So if at all you're doing something, do it with great care, because everything is association of thought. Everything is performed with the sole objective that your thoughts remain beyond the ritual. A ritual is performed with the only objective that the association of thought remains beyond the ritual. What is the point if I salute the national flag and have no national spirit after the performance of that act? What meaning has it got? Has it got any meaning? So the performance of ritual is the association of thought. So the thought should linger after the ritual is performed. And that will happen when you perform it with great devotion. With the spirit of auspiciousness. Yeah. But how does it matter when everything belongs to God? How does it matter to choose and offer the best to Him? Fundamentally, whose is it? It belongs to Him. Everything is His creation. No? But still, why am I choosing the best to offer to Him? Because it helps me evolve. That's all. Even if you offer a rotten fruit, it doesn't matter to God. Remember this. But you are choosing the best so that it helps you associate to reach God. But once you reach God, you will see God in a perfect fruit. You will also see God in a rotten fruit. You will see God in a developed soul. You will see God in a Shvapaka. Who is a Shvapaka? A guy who eats dog meat. Shvapaka, Panditaha, Samadarshanaha. That's what the Gita says. You see the same in a person who eats a dog meat, means the lowest of cadre, and a Panditaha, the most evolved. Samadarshanaha, your darshan, your view is the same in the lowest and highest. But until you reach that state, don't associate with tamasic people. Why do you keep satsang? Sir, in fact, why do you choose the best? It is satsang for you, sir. If you associate with the lower natures, it is not the satsang for dussang for you.
Yeah.
So you keep the right company, you choose the best. You would not light an incense stick which has a foul smell, will you? It's not that the God there is sitting and smelling all what you are lighting up. He'll be suffocated, he'll be choked. You need oxygen cylinder to be given to the God. Imagine the number of incense sticks you are lighting every day. Don't take it literally. But when you light an incense stick, it's for whom? It's for your association. God doesn't need it. God doesn't need it, please. God doesn't need your prayer. God has got nothing to do with you. God is the reality, and the world you're caught up in is illusion. So one is light, other is darkness. If God has got nothing to do with the illusion, why do you think God has got anything to do in the part of the creation of illusion? Huh? Fundamentally fallacy, isn't it?
Yes.
The world is illusion. Does that make Srinivas Reddy any real? Oh, are you trying to answer me through your silence that I also don't exist?
My
You
mind
people are
started
too.
processing
You people are
because
too.
you're taking me,
You
Guruji,
people
you're
are.
taking me to so
Your people are.
pretending mode. On the
No, you
God.
people are. No, you people are too smart. Even your silence also answers. So when the world itself illusion, then
Yes.
me who is a part of this world also is illusion. If the world doesn't exist, what makes you believe I exist for Brahman? There is no existence from that standpoint. So you are doing everything to transcend the world to reach Brahman. All that you're doing is to go beyond the attachments to the world and develop an identity with Brahman. That is all that matters. It is like a pole vaulter. It helps you to reach that bar. Thereafter, you're not bothered where the pole is. It's discarded.
Yes.
It's like the doctor in the operation theater, he wears a particular garb. He uses certain tools. Once the surgery is done, is he bothered where that garb is? It served the purpose. It's discarded. It's no more used, isn't it? It's done.
Yes.
But it's required. It has to be taken great care. Every tool. So even when you go for a haircut, the guy in the saloon, the barber, you ensure that the blade he's using is not a reused blade. You say it's a one-time use. And once after it's used, is it of any use to you? No, you'll make sure that it's discarded. That's it. It served its purpose. Everything in spirituality is like a barber's blade. It has a purpose, use it, move on. Move on. Or the garb of a surgeon. No use thereafter. It served its purpose. But everything is so carefully planned and sanitized and kept so that it serves its purpose. Once it's served, it's redundant. Move on. Please do not misunderstand. You have to be very careful. You try and understand what they're saying. So the mantra is read. The gods, the three gods, Agni, Vayu, and Indra, excel other gods because they approach the spirit nearest. They were indeed first to know Brahman. And then, therefore, verily, Indra excel other gods as he approached the spirit nearest. Thus, he was indeed first to know Brahman. So when you approach God with mind and intellect, we mentioned this last week before, I'll mention again. When you approach God with your mind and intellect, you get what is known as the Paroksha Jnanam, which is indirect knowledge, which is symbolized by Uma. And then you get the Aparoksha Jnanam, which is the experience of the self-realization, which is, we also loosely said Pratyaksha, which is your direct experience. You have experienced it yourself. Now I request all of you, after the class, just sit 5 minutes where you are. Don't go into the rush of your next activities. Just sit 5 minutes and let it sink. Just let it settle. Don't even move from the desk. Just sit 5 minutes. It helps you to just make sense or process all that has been transacted. It would help. All right. We'll come back to continue. Okay. Oh. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ओम्। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्।